I bought the Sony FX30 in 2026, and here are a couple reasons why I think you should give it a look too.
I'm running the most optimal setup right now. Got a freaking cine lens.
Does it look smooth?
I have no idea.
Oh,
I mean, yeah, kind of. I think it looks really good. I just don't know how it's gonna turn out.
if I wasn't in it, this would be an amazing image.
Personally, the reason why I got the FX30 wasn't because of the specs, it wasn't because of anything special really with the camera, but I needed a reliable workhorse camera that I could use in conjunction with my A7S III. I've just been on way too many shoots recently where I had to end up borrowing other people's cameras. And then at a certain point, I was just like, why don't I just go out and get another camera?
Give them food and whatnot, or I don't know. I figure it out. Figure it out.
This camera was actually super useful for me recently because me and my buddy Caleb Smith, we went out to go scout locations for a documentary that we've got coming up. And I needed a camera that I could take with me just to kind of cover the different places we were going to, but without drawing a whole lot of attention to ourselves.
It's absolutely crazy. They've got like a whole Hogwarts for like 300 people.
And if you know me, you know I love to keep my main camera rigged up. I mean, here it is right here, the A7S III. This thing is chonky. Look at that. It's big, it's hefty, it's got a cine lens on it. I like to keep this thing all rigged out. Not ideal for just going around location scouting. That's where the FX30 came in. Because I already have a super big rigged up camera, I don't really have to do too much rigging on this guy. And because it's just so small and lightweight and compact and you can get so much out of this thing, it was a no-brainer for me. And I was able to capture some really stunning footage while we were walking around Randolph College looking for a place to shoot our documentary. And that brings me to a lot of the pros that this camera has. I've mentioned how tight and compact it is and just how small it is in terms of form factor, but I haven't talked about what you're getting inside of this tiny little camera. You get a 6K downsampled image straight off of this sensor, and it downsamples it to very, very crispy 4K. I do wish that you could just get the 6K footage out of this camera, but that might be too taxing on the fan or on the sensor itself, so I don't really care, but it produces a crazy good image. And then also you get all the standard Sony codecs. You get XAVC-S, you get XAVC-SI, you get all of the great 4K formats. You can also do 4K in 60 frames per second, and you can do 4K in 120 frames per second, although you do have a pretty egregious crop on that 120 frames. So may or may not be usable for you. Personally, I've never used the 120 frames on this camera, but if you need it, it's there. And then also with the most recent firmware update, version 6, you get the Big 6 menu. This thing is great. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. This menu setup is insane. I absolutely love it. It puts all of your settings in just a nice, easy to reach section, and you can program which button you want to bring it up. Right now I have the trash button to bring up the Big 6 menu. I didn't mean for that to happen. I think that's just like the default right now. But super great menu setup. You don't really have to dig through the Sony menu system, which to be honest, everyone likes to rag on it. But I've used Canon cameras, I've used Nikon cameras, and I think those cameras have way more confusing menu setups than Sony does. And in these menus, you can navigate to change the frames per second, you can change the Cine EI levels, you can change what look you're getting out of the camera, you can use Cinetone or S-Log 3. If you're using anamorphic lenses, you also have access to both 1.33, 1.5, and 2 times de-squeezing options, although you do lose autofocus in those modes, so maybe I would recommend using a monitor to de-squeeze your footage. And speaking of, you have access to a full HDMI right here. So great. I don't know why cameras are coming out these days with micro HDMI or half HDMI. Like, why, guys? And then another pro that you can find on the body is dual card slots. You can use the full Sony TUF cards or just any other SD card of your choice, or you can use CF Express Type A cards. I wish you could use CF Express Type B, but you know, I'll take multiple different media. I don't really care if it's Type B or Type A. And then you also have the Sony Hot Shoe right here, where you can plug in the trusty Sony audio top handle, which I have on the A7S III here. And I know a lot of people give that top handle crap, but I think in today's day and age, there's so many additions that you can buy for it to make it a more sturdy top handle that it really, it doesn't matter anymore. And that's kind of where I am with a lot of cameras. Everybody's always asking for this feature, that feature, you know, ProRes RAW, I want internal ProRes RAW, I want internal ND filters, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, we have so many options now to get the same result. Like, is it an extra step? Yeah, but you're also not having to really pay as much upfront when you're buying the camera. So I'll take it. You know, it's fine. Probably have to make a whole video about why I don't think internal RAW is really all that necessary in today's day and age with just so many external recording options. But before I get into all that, let's move on. Last thing I really want to mention about the body is all of the different mounting points on this camera. It's got mounting points all over the place. You probably can't see because I've got a cage on this guy, the Sony SmallRig V2 Hawklock cage. I don't even know if that's the proper name, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's so awesome to have that on the camera body. I see some cameras like the Nikon ZR coming out. They don't feel like purpose-built cinema cameras because they don't have anywhere for you to screw things in or screw things down. And it's just like, why? Why not? And speaking of the Nikon ZR, has like no handle grip at all. This guy's got a really nice handle. I mean, the grip on this thing, crazy good. Now that leads us actually into some of the cons here. Unlike the Nikon ZR and a lot of other cameras coming out these days, there's no internal RAW on this guy. That is kind of a bummer. I know I did say that the external RAW, you know, I'm totally fine with that. But even the external RAW isn't really that good on this camera. This camera is a APS-C style sensor, which means a lot of things. One being you don't get the greatest noise performance. This camera, even though the image, because it's a 6K downsampled image, it has a sharper image than something like the FX3/A7S III or the FX6, which I'm currently filming on. It has more noise in the shadows and even in the midtones. You really won't notice it unless you're looking for it, but when you're shooting in ProRes RAW, you will definitely notice it. There is so much noise. I've shot some content recently for an artist friend of mine, and I was shooting both at XAVC-SI and ProRes RAW. The XAVC-SI looked fantastic, but the ProRes RAW, oh my gosh, it was really bad. Like, there were parts of his face that were just blue, blotchy blue, just like a whole blotch of blue on his face. It was not pretty. Sucks to say that, but it's just true. You can't really get a whole lot of usability out of that. Go back to red. We got branding to focus on. And then another thing that I think you should know about this camera, I don't even know if it's really a con, but it definitely is something to be aware of, is that this is an APS-C style sensor, which means that it is 1.5 times smaller than something full frame like the FX3. See that right there? It's a lot smaller. It's 1.5 times smaller. A lot of people call this a 1.5 times crop, but it's not, because a crop is something that you do in post. You crop in on an image. You don't a sensor, by virtue of just being smaller, is not cropping in on itself. You're getting the full access to the sensor. Your sensor is just 1.5 times smaller than this guy over here. But essentially what that means is you're gonna have less dynamic range in this sensor than you will on the A7S III or FX3. I believe the FX30 is advertised having 14 stops of dynamic range. It's not 14, it's more like 11 stops of dynamic range. That's still really usable, and if you know what you're doing, you're not gonna find it to be a problem. So if you're gonna go shoot outside, I would highly recommend bringing an ND filter at all times. Even in sunsets, I've had to crank the ND on this guy because it will lose the sky much quicker than my FX3. One final con that I have with this camera is that the rolling shutter performance is worse than my FX6 and A7S III. It's not that noticeable. It's just whenever you go like this, whenever you're doing quick, oh, almost lost this guy. That's another advantage of the Hawklock cage. It comes with a little tool to help you screw it on. Super useful. But I notice whenever I whip pan with this camera, I see a little bit more jelloing than I do on my other cameras. And so definitely something to be aware of. That's another byproduct of this APS-C style sensor, is whenever your camera is rolling, it's taking a bunch of little pictures, and it's taking that picture not all at the same time, because that's what a global shutter does. It's taking it line by line. And on a really fast camera like the FX6, which has 8 millisecond rolling shutter, it is reading those lines super fast. You will barely notice, if you'll notice at all, the warping in the straight lines that you're filming. But with this camera, I believe the rolling shutter performance sits around 15 to 16 milliseconds. So if you're looking closely, you will notice that straight lines in your image will be a bit more warped than on other cameras. So that's also something to keep in mind. I don't think it's a deal breaker, but you know, the more you know. But aside from all these cons, I do want to mention something else that I just thought of. This camera has an internal fan, which means you can throw this thing out in like 100-degree temperatures, never gonna overheat. That's actually what got me to buy this camera versus the Sony ZV-E1. I believe the Sony ZV-E1 has the same sensor as the A7 and the FX3, but it doesn't have an internal fan. And I was seeing from many different places that it overheats, even when you're shooting 24 frames per second. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, that's a problem. I don't know if I can really use that or trust that. That's kind of the big thing for me, is I need a camera that I can trust, I can take into just about any environment and trust that it is going to get a good shot and that it is going to be bulletproof no matter what situation I throw it into. That's basically my standard. I, as a videographer, cinematographer, whatever, I don't require the greatest, latest specs. I have never had a client ask me for open gate. If ever somebody wants me to shoot something vertical, I just go. You can also set frame parameters in your menu to be 9:16 while also shooting horizontal. So that's also super useful. And that's why I think if you're looking for a small, compact camera that you could rig out to be super huge, if that's what you're looking into, that you can grow with, that has really good specs, but also doesn't break the bank, I think the FX30 is a terrific option. You're not really losing anything. It's just a different camera than something like the FX3, but it's still got the same great Sony image, and it's just a really fun camera to shoot with, and you can trust it in just about any scenario. So if you're looking to buy a new camera, give my little guy here a shot. Anyways, guys, now it's your turn to tell me what you guys think. Do you think I'm a total grandpa loser for shooting with cameras that are a couple years old? Or do you think that a bulletproof camera is the best camera? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.